we've been talking about the symbols for the planets, and I said that you could run a similar exercise for the symbols of the zodiac signs. They all have a meaning, but I don't want to go into it in depth. You can contemplate this. Like the symbol for Aries is like the ram's horns. You can start thinking about, like, free associating. What are rams? Why do they have horns? They butt up against things with, and so on. And then you can understand the historical resonances in the age of Aries, when they used to blow the shofar in ancient Israel, the ram's horn. And you see where the action of spirit is in human history at a particular point. The symbol for Pisces, two curves with a line through, is redolent of a couple of fish. And the Pisces constellation has one fish swimming one way and another fish swimming another way. Libra looks like scales, the symbol for Libra. It's basically an abstraction. And it's interesting that the sign of Libra is the one abstraction amongst all the signs of the zodiac. The others are living creatures. They're either animals, or in the case of Aquarius, the water bearer, it's a human being. And with Sagittarius, it's the centaur, which is half human, half beast. And you can go through all of these signs, look at their glyphs, and see the symbolism, and ask yourself, what is the significance of the symbolism? What is it meant to encode, so that to the trained eye, when they see a symbol like Taurus with the circle and the horns, what does that mean? And they can see the symbol for Virgo, which is like an M with a bit curved back inside the M, as against the symbol for Scorpio, which is like an M but with a tail and a sting pointing out, redolent of the sting of the scorpion. But it also encodes quite a bit of information about the human sexuality as well. Because in the case of Virgo, the Virgin, that coil of potential, sexual potential, is turned in on itself. And in the case of Scorpio, which rules human sexuality, it is turned out in expression. But it's time to move into that area of overlap that I flagged in the last video. The overlap between three subjects. Well, actually, it's the whole quadrivium, but in particular, sacred geometry, harmonics, and astronomy. But you could throw in number. But geometry is just number transformed into shape. Number counts cycles as well. So this is a way of utilizing the quadrivium to raise your consciousness and to become a better peacemaker. That's what it's all for. So you're born on a particular day. And each year, hopefully, you celebrate your birthday. What is the significance of a birthday?
Some people reckon it's a bad significance.
How?
It actually ages you.
Really?
That's what I've been hearing.
Oh, well, yes, you do get older, a year older.
No, but you're kind of affirming it, and there's something in mythology that relates to it.
I think birthday is a good thing. If you appreciate your existence, if you're happy to be alive, then...
But you don't want to age.
Oh, well, that's...
You can avoid it.
It's part of life too. But with each birthday, well, unless you've mastered the Plutonic art of transmutation that we were talking about, which the alchemists called the Philosopher's Stone, is there any truth to that? We could go off onto a big digression.
I hope there is.
It brings up Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Nicholas Flamel. That's in that first Harry Potter book and movie. They talked about the Philosopher's Stone and some of the alchemists that had mastered the art of staying alive. Anyway, that's a digression. What were we talking about?
Sorry.
Birthdays. A birthday is a solar return. It means that the sun has come back after doing a revolution. In our geocentric frame of reference, the sun appears to have gone on a journey through all the signs of the zodiac and has returned to the same place, as seen from Earth, that it was at when you were born, your birthday. So if you understand the energies of birth and manifesting, coming into being, then observe, be aware of the rising of these energies of manifesting and self-assertion that obtain around the time of your birthday. You can do this every year of your life. You don't have to take my word for it. Make it an empirical discipline, because none of this has any credibility until you start observing the correspondences between the movements of the heavenly bodies and what's happening in your life and in your culture. So one simple thing you can start with is, if you're a Leo or a Sagittarius, and as the sun enters your birth sign, what's happening? Do you feel the beginning of a new cycle? Do you feel a reinvigoration and maybe even a reinvention of your identity? Like you're remaking yourself. You're being born again in some way. Now that's called a return, but it's also when one point on the zodiac coincides with another, when two things, in this case the appearance of the sun in one year and the appearance in the other year, come together, that's called a conjunction. Or if two heavenly bodies are in the same place, that's called a conjunction. Now, in terms of harmonics, we can say that's the first harmonic. It's the return. And there are musical implications to all of this as well, because Pythagoras, going right back to Pythagoras, if you pluck a string, you get a certain note. And if you divided the string in half and you pluck, you get a note that's one octave higher. And if you divided a third of its length and pluck, you get the musical You get a musical fifth or a musical third, I'm not quite sure, forgotten. But you get key ratios in the octave. Now you can do this with a calendar, with the yearly round. What I'm talking about here is the round art, the art of dividing a circle. So the second harmonic would be the division of the circle in half, 180 degrees, the other side of the year. So if you were born in spring, autumn is the other side of the year. If you were born in the sign of Gemini, the twins, well then the opposite sign that the sun passes through on the other side of the year is Sagittarius, the archer. Does this have any significance in the cycles of your life? Again, you can observe. And because it is opposite, and the second harmonic, it forms a straight line, like a diameter of a circle. And that opposition plays out in human affairs as relationship and partnership. So observe that when you are 6 months away from your birthday, whether the events of your life seem to be conspiring to bring partnership issues to the fore, or maybe present partnership opportunities.
As a member of the public, that's one thing I would request. Could we have a session on relationships between star signs? I know that sounds pretty vague.
That's what I'm working towards here now.
That's what I noticed, right? That's why I brought it up.
Because I want to get to the point of saying, okay, like you're a Sagittarius, you meet a Libra, what can you expect? Is there a structuring of the dynamic such that it is easier to work with this structure than against it?
A lot of people are very interested in that, including myself.
Yes. And I'm just beginning it by working at the individual level and saying, look at the passage of time through a year and see what happens 6 months into your year. Does it bring up partnership issues? Does it present partner opportunities? Does it highlight something in your relationship with your spouse, your significant other, or your business partner? In particular, the focus is on this special one-on-one relationship. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a Libran, let's say, then when the sun's in Aries, which is my opposite sign, I can look for this kind of manifestation. And again, there is a correspondence between what is happening up there and what is happening here, between something that is going on in space and between seemingly inanimate bodies composed mainly of rock, or in the case of the sun, it's a big ball of fire, isn't it? Of gas and heat and radiation. And what is actually happening in the human sphere. Again, if you look at the third harmonic of the circle, you get what's called in the astrological trade the trine, the 120 degree angle. So if you're passing through your year of experience, these are patterns that you can observe from year to year, and we haven't yet talked about multiples, like we can divide the year up into halves, into thirds, into quarters, into fifths, into twelfths. Or we can expand and say what happens year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 from a given point. People studying the round art talk of the aspects as the internal subdivisions of the circle, and the name given to the multiples, profections. Profections. And just to kind of give you a glimpse of what that might be about is, I've talked about how 6 months from your birthday, there might be a manifestation of partnership themes because of the opposition. Well, 6 years from your birthday, or from any given, or 6 years of a 12-year cycle, let's say you turn 30 and then 6 years later 36. Now let's start with an even multiple of 12. Say you turn 24 and then 6 years later you're 30. You're halfway in this larger profectional cycle, and so you can get in that whole year a manifestation of partnership themes. But you have to be the judge empirically whether the occurrence of these motifs and events is more frequent than it normally is. If you're observant, you have to be open-minded to see this, and you have to have your intuition engaged. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Again, I don't want to preempt what you may see or not see. I'm just giving a suggestion as to how you can empirically test some of this ancient understanding. Getting back to the third harmonic, if we divide the circle into thirds, we are looking at 4-month intervals. So 4 months after my birthday, then 8 months, and then 12 months, I'm back to my birthday. But 4 months and 8 months are very creative aspects. The third harmonic mobilizes energy in a creative expression. Whereas the square, or the fourth harmonic of the circle, 90 degrees, from 0 degrees to 90 degrees, 90 to 180, 180 to 270, and 270 to 360. That gives you that rigid cross framework within the circle. The fourth harmonic has more to do with structure and identity. Because you know our identity like a table, like a chair on 4 legs. Let's say there's your sense of self, but a square away from that is your sense of identity that comes from your family background, your roots, your ancestry, your ethnic and racial heritage. That also contributes to the sense of who I am. Observe this in relation to the square, that is, to a point 3 months away from your birthday, or 3 months before your birthday, 3 months after your birthday, and 3 months before your birthday. well, the ancestral heritage in particular, 3 months after your birthday. The square point 3 months before your birthday. So if you're an Aries, it would be Capricorn, 3 months before. You need to pull up a diagram that shows you all the signs in order. So 3 months before, you're getting a contribution from a different sense of identity, which is your public persona, your status in the world. Who are you professionally in the world's eyes? Are you, a scientist or a politician or a labourer or whatever your public or social role defines you to be, also contributes to your identity, to the structure of who you are. The other point on this cross you may realise, we've already touched on with the original opposition of the second harmonic, the sign opposite your own, the 180 degrees. We talked about partnership. Therefore, your marital status, your relationship status, as they say on Facebook, don't they say that on Facebook? Everybody puts in their relationship status because that contributes to your identity as well. A large sense of
whether
who
you're
you are.
available or not.
Yeah, whether you're available or not, whether you're accounted for or not, whether you're married or whether you're single, your status really shapes who you are. So does your ancestry, your family background, and so does your public role. Are you a criminal or are you a valorised member of a professional body, for example? So these are some things to observe. And the other thing is that understand that they can be looked at as internal divisions of the circle, these harmonics, and also as profections or multiples of the rounds. For example, with the fourth harmonic, we're looking at 4 years down the track. 3 years down the track from your birthday. 6 years down the track, 9 years down the track, 12 years down the track. You're back to the start. That's a 12-year cycle. It's important in the Western round art and in the Chinese round art. But think about it. Let's say you're at the beginning of a 12-year cycle. You've just turned 36. 3 years down the track would be from your 39th birthday. For a whole year to your 40th birthday. And in that window of time, which is a year, see if these family background and ancestral issues have a greater tendency to manifest with greater frequency and provide you with greater opportunity to advance your life in this area than at other times in a given 12-year period. Do you see how the system works? Not only on the divisions within a year, but on the multiples of the years. So we can continue this with more numbers and more divisions down to the 12-fold, the 12th harmonic, 12th division of a circle. And then look at every year in a 12-year cycle. Or we could segue from here into what Belinda was talking about. Relationship astrology, the basics, the 101. How does an Aries relate to a Scorpio? How does a Virgo relate to an Aquarius? Is there a foundational dynamic or structure there which we should observe? And maybe we can move there next.